Following yesterday's games, which were played on Friday, we saw 4 countries joining the 15 countries to make 19 countries to have qualified for AFCON 2025, which will be hosted in Morocco, and it will be starting by December 21st. Then it will be ending in January 18th, 2026, which means AFCON 2025, which will be in Morocco, it will be another one. Remember, we are having giant countries. Talk about Egypt, that's Missouri, then talk about the Morocco guys, then talk about the defending champion, which is Ivory Coast. When we saw last campaign, that was the AFCON 2023, where they came and put a very good performance, beating Nigeria, which had a lot of players, a lot of stars. I talk about Adamu Lukman, and talk about guys like Victor Osimhen, who were in form by then. So Ivory Coast came and beat them down. This time around, we're going to see 24 countries or 24 nations which will be playing in AFCON 2025. Yesterday, Friday, I told you already that 4 countries joined the 15 countries. Talk about Zambia, talk about Mali, Zimbabwe, and Comoros. Joined the 15 countries to make 19 countries which have already qualified AFCON 2025, meaning that we're having now 6 countries which have to battle 6 to 5, because they're supposed to be 24 countries, and now if 19 countries have already qualified, it means that 5 countries are going to hustle or to make it tough, starting with today and then tomorrow and other days, so that they can qualify. Remember, when you talk about yesterday's games, we saw many teams which played, where we saw Botswana making it 1-1 with Mauritania, and then Uganda suffered it at home against South Africa. Remember Uganda, I'm going to talk about it. The last game which they played to South Africa, and they made a 2-2 draw when they were in South Africa. This time around, when Uganda was in their home ground, that was in Kampala at Nambole Stadium, they lost 2-0 against South Africa. And then Cape Verde made a 1-1 draw with Egypt. I think Egypt had already qualified, so they were just playing for formality. So they had to make a 1-1 draw with Cape Verde. And then Eswatini also made a 1-1 draw with Guinea-Bissau. Countries like Mali were qualifying their way through, so they had to beat Mozambique 1-0. And then Ivory Coast, it was a shock of the day, but no wonder Ivory Coast had already qualified, so they were playing against Zambia. And the Chipolopolo and Zambia were tussling their way out to qualify, also coming as second in their group. So Ivory Coast had already qualified. So yesterday, Zambia came and beat Ivory Coast 1-0. And then Zimbabwe had a 1-1 draw with Kenya. Remember, Kenya was also trying to fight around to qualify, but Zimbabwe came and got a point, because Zimbabwe was looking for a point, and Zimbabwe also qualified. Then when you look at countries like Angola, made a 1-1 draw with Ghana. Ghana is another country which is really disappointing when you come to this edition of AFCON 2025 qualification, because Ghana is performing with badly. And then yesterday they had to make a 1-1 draw with Angola. Someone knew or thought that Ghana would come up and put there a hard performance, but Angola came and made a 1-1 draw with Ghana. Angola was at home, but they made 1-1 draw. Then Gabon was beaten by Morocco. Gabon was at home, Morocco was away, but they came and they beat Gabon 1-0. Remember, Morocco is one of the countries which we're expecting to put a very top performance this time around in AFCON of 2025. Being the host, they may want to put a big performance and take the example of Ivory Coast. Remember, last campaign of 2023 AFCON, Ivory Coast were the host, and they came way through and they won the trophy after beating Nigeria on the finals. Then remember, Ivory Coast by then, it is the country which came as a third from the group stages. It came as the third best from the group stages. Then they came all the way through up to finals, and they had to beat Nigeria. Nigeria which had a lot of stars. Now this time around, maybe Morocco also may be coping or may want to cope their fellow, the Ivory Coast, the way they did it in 2023, and they qualified, and after they won the trophy because they were the host. This time around, Morocco also may be in need of doing the same thing that Ivory Coast did last time. Yesterday they were beating Gabon 5-1. Then another game was against Comoros, and Gambia. Comoros came in this game when they wanted 3 points to qualify, and man, they qualified. So it makes them to be among the 19 countries which have already qualified to AFCON 2025. I told you AFCON will be played in between 21st December. It will be the opening game at 21st December, and then up to January, that is 2026. Now this time around, you look at countries like Morocco, Burkina Faso, Cameroon, Algeria, DRC Congo, Senegal, Egypt, Angola, Equatorial Guinea, Cape Verde. Talk about the Uganda, Ukraine, South Africa, Gabon, Tunisia, Nigeria, Zambia, Mali, Zimbabwe, Comoros. Those are the 19 countries which have already qualified for AFCON 2025. But my friend, you can go back to last edition's campaign. You know, this time round, AFCON 2025 is going to be a tough. You can look at countries like Ivory Coast, look at countries like Morocco, look at countries like Egypt, and then the Pharaoh guys. Then look at countries like Nigeria. These guys are going to put a lot of performance. Last time when we looked at Ivory Coast was one of the defending champions. In fact, was the host. And then they came and they won that trophy. You know, after beating Nigeria on the final. But they had a very technical and very terrible squad. I talk about Simon Adingira was there. That man, he plays in Brighton Albion in England. Then I talk about guys like Jonas Bamba, that was another star who was there in Ivory Coast. Then talk about some guys who were there making it, you know, tough. Nicolas Pepe, you know, that Ivory Coast, Nicolas Pepe, remember him in Arsenal. This time round, he plays in Turkey in a team called Trabzonspor. Is another name which was lethal last time in AFCON 2023. Then talk about guys like Omar Diakate. That man was very terrible. Remember, he plays in Reims, that is in France. And then talk about guys like Max Arian, guys were there who were really stars. Then not forgetting guys like Jean Philippe, you know, was very terrible for that country called Ivory Coast when they were lifting the trophy last time in 2023. Then when you talk about countries which were scaring, you can talk about Nigeria. Nigeria had real stars because when you talk about William Trust Ekong, that man came all the way around to be manifested in the AFCON or in the CAF squad. William Trust Ekong was another defender who was terrible. Then talk about guys like Ola Aina. By then in 2023, he was another man to watch. And then talk about guys like Sami Ajay, my friend. And then talk about guys like Chukwueze. Those guys were very terrible in Nigerian squad. Then you come at Alex Iwobi. Guys were really very terrible. Then you can come all the way. Then you talk about like guys like Ademola Lookman. Even he was on the short list of Ballon d'Or winners. You know, he was the only African man who was in the Ballon d'Or winner list. No wonder he did make it way through to the winners, because we saw Rodri, the Spaniard guy, taking it. But Ademola Lookman, the performance which he put in AFCON 2023, and then even the performance which he put in his team, that is Atalanta, it made him you know, struggle through. Then talk about guys like Victor Boniface. That was another star name you can talk about. Then Victor Osimhen, my friend, by then before he had moved away from Italy, that was in Napoli. Remember Napoli by then, they came and even they won their Serie A trophy. Talk about the Scudetto, which had taken almost 30 years before they had won. Then Victor Osimhen came with a very brilliant performance, despite the fact that he had some injuries which disturbed him in AFCON 2023 in between group stages there. But after he came and he caught up. Then talk about guys like Moses Simeon. I'm telling you, Nigeria was another country which was very terrible, and I thought that maybe they would be the champion of AFCON 2023, but they didn't go to win it, had hence losing it to Ivory Coast on the final. Then when you talk about other team which was terrible and the country which we should be care of is the Senegals. Senegal. Talk about Sadio Mane. Sadio Mane, he was on form that was in 2023 because he was playing in big countries and in big teams, because left Liverpool, he went all away to German, that was Bayern Munich. Sadio Mane, but this time round is in Saudi Arabia, is not overperforming. You know that, because you can't compare the squad and the performance of Saudi Arabia to the performance of Nigeria. I mean to the performance of German, then to the performance of England. So Sadio Mane in Senegal, it will be another name to be watch upon, but I think his performance is not all that good, because when you're playing in Saudi Arabia, it's not the same way like in German, where he was in 2023, and then like in England, where he was in 2022 when he was playing with Liverpool. Then other guys to look at, we having a man called Lamine Camara, or Lamine Camara. That midfielder is another good guy. Then Idrissa Gana Gueye, that midfielder is another terrible guy to look about in Senegal squad. Then I talk about Mendy and Nampalys Mendy, that midfielder also is another terrible guy. And then talk about Pepe Gueye is another guy to look about. Then I talk about the man himself, Sadio Mane. You can't wait to watch him in this AFCON 2025, and then talk about the man called Ismaila Sarr, that forward guy is another terrible man. Then talk about the man called Chife Ndeye is another man to look about in that Senegal squad, which will be perusing all the way to the final or to AFCON 2025. Then you cannot leave this session without talking about the Misri guys, the Falau guys, Egypt. Talk about Mohamed Salah Ghali is another man who has shown it in Liverpool time to time ever since he left. That was back in German. He came to Liverpool. He has passed through different coaches. Talk about Jurgen Klopp, and then this time round is playing under Ancelotti. Another terrible team, another technical team. Another terrible way of playing. They are playing tic-tac, they are playing that football flowing game. So Mohamed Salah Ghali is another man to watch out when 32 years, because the man is now old. But in Africa, age is just a number, because even if you're 30 and above, you can come and do wonders, because I've seen guys like Samuel Fuseto, guys like Drogba coming all the way to play when they are starting favor and above. Now Mohamed Salah Ghali is another man to watch in this squad of Egypt. That is in 2025. Then I talk about guys like Ahmad Alef is another man to look at. And then Osama Fizo is another man to look about. Then Mustafa Fahi, another man to look at. So Egypt also is having star players. And then talk about Muhammad Sharif, Muhammad Salah, the man himself. And then talk about Muhammad Lachelle is another man to look at. And then talk about Maman Atta. So there are players who are going to make this AFCON 2025, which will be hosted in Morocco, to be entertaining. Then when you talk about other guys which you can look about, or another country which will be a terrible one, is the country called Morocco. Morocco is another country. Remember the host this time round, but we saw them last time in last campaign edition, that was 2023 AFCON. They were so terrible. Now this time round, being under a coach who has been with them and having stars. Talk about the Roman size, that man, that defender is another terrible guy. Then they having Nasser Mazroui. He made his transfer from Bayern Munich, and that's German. Now is in Manchester United. Is going to put a very little performance. Talk about guys like Muhammad Chibi is another man to look about. Then talk about guys like Ashraf Hakimi. Last time you saw him in last edition of AFCON 2023. That was in Ivory Coast. He was a very technical man in team of Morocco. Now this time around is going to come back in the squad. Ashraf Hakimi, and then a knife ogre, that defender, my friend, is around 28 years. Is another experienced defender to look about. Then talk about Abdel Adda, is another guy to look at. In fact, Abdel Abubakar, is another defender to look at. When it comes to Morocco, Morocco is another terrible team. Then when you come in the midfielders of Morocco, you can talk about guys like Hakim Ziyech, Sofian Amrabat. Those guys, Amrabat is now in Fenerbahce, is in Turkey. Yes, he's playing with Jose Felix Marino. Sofian Amrabat is another guy to look at. And then guys like Isamail Sabari is another man to look at. So Morocco is having really a stars. Then talk about this man, Youssef El Nasri, is in PSG, is playing with PSG, is another man to look at. So I'm telling you, there are very many countries and very many nations which are going to entertain this AFCON of 2025, which will be held in Morocco. I've told you, Ivory Coast, the host last time, and the defending champion, they are going to be in this AFCON. Then talk about Nigeria, talk about Egypt, talk about Senegal, talk about Morocco, the host themselves. Then we have the other entries which are going to make this AFCON entertaining. Talk about Uganda. Uganda had taken almost 2 campaigns without qualifying, because Uganda last qualified, that was in 2019. That was their last time to qualify. But now, this time around, when you look at the way Uganda playing, despite the fact that yesterday, Friday, the game which was played in Nambole, they lost it 2-0 against South Africa. But Uganda is another country to watch out when it comes to AFCON at this time around. Then talk about countries like Comoros, talk about countries like Guinea. It will be really table countries. When you talk about Uganda, Uganda has been in AFCON for a long time, because they first qualified in AFCON. That was in the year 1962, and then they came and they qualified in 1968. They qualified in 1974. They came and they qualified in 1976. Then they went back in 1978. That was a memorable, and that was a real good performance for Uganda, because they went way up to finals, playing Ghana, where they lost 2-0. And then talk about 2017. In fact, from 1978, when Uganda last qualified, they had taken almost 50 and above years, because from 1978, Uganda Crane had taken almost 58 years before. In fact, 58 years without qualifying, because from 1978, Uganda Crane came and qualified. That was in 2017. So you can look at the way, remember in 2017, the guys like Emmanuel Okwi, guys like that was Emmanuel Okwi was in that squad which played under Michu. And then the goal scorer by then was who, I've forgotten his name. Farouk Umia, yes, that man came all the way and he played. By then, I think he was playing for Vipers. Farouk Umia, when he scored that goal, so those guys were really terrible. From 1978 and then to 2017, man, it was a long period of time. So Ugandans had to celebrate the city of Uganda, that was Kampala. It was full of meat aromas, it was full of beers, full of sodas. So then from 2017, Uganda Crane had to go back again, back to back in 2019. I think they were under a coach called Sabri, because in 2017, Uganda was under a coach called Michu, that Serbian man. Then I think in 2019, Uganda was under a coach called Sabri, if I'm not mistaken. So from 2019, Uganda has not been qualifying. That was 2021. They didn't qualify, and then 2023, Uganda did qualify. This time around, 2025, Uganda is going to qualify. And to tell you like a secret, Uganda is going to play back-to-back AFCON, because after playing in 2025, that will be in Morocco, Uganda again will host that AFCON Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania an initiative called Pamoja Bid. So there will be around 3 countries, Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania, and they will play the AFCON 2027. So Uganda, after playing or after qualifying for AFCON 2025, again they are going to play back to back. That is 2 headers to play in 2017 and 20, in fact 27 and 2025. But when you talk about the history of Uganda, when you go back, that was in 1978. Uganda were the reached finals with Ghana. They were in group B, where they had 4 countries. Uganda was in that group B, Tunisia, Morocco, and Congo. Then Uganda made a draw with Morocco of 1-1. Then they came and they beat Congo 3-1. That was in the year 1978. Then Uganda came and lost to Tunisia 3-1. So they went through as number 1 because they were having 4 points in Group B. And then Tunisia came in second position with 4 points. But Uganda had 3 goals. Remember, by then Uganda was another terrible team because they had strikers like Omondi. The goal poacher, that man was there. Then you can talk about a man like Omar Pole. That man was playing for Lugazi. Then Philip Omondi by then was playing for Kampala State Authority. That was in 1978. And then they had guys like Amwesigwa, Barnabas. That man was playing in it was called Timas. Some kind of, yes, some old timers, yes, by then in 1978. And then had guys like Chisutu Joffrey, that striker who was playing in Lugazi. And then talk about guys like Jimmy Chirunda. My God, that defender was playing in cases by then. Talk about Tom Ruanga, that defender was playing in case A. And then talk about the goalkeeper Asali Paul. No one I can't forget, to talk about him. 1978, he was playing in Lugazi. By then, Uganda Crane had Rio Stars in 1978, but Uganda now from 1978 they came and struggled. That was up to 2017, where we had guys like Mitchell, the coach called Mitchell then, guys like Emmanuel Okwi. You can talk about guys like Farouk Mia. Talk about guys who were there. There are very many guys, very many crucial guys who were playing in Uganda Crane 2017, which had qualified at AFCON after almost 58 years. Because I told you they had last qualified, that was in 1978 to the final. Then from the glory of finals of 1978, Uganda had never qualified to AFCON, but thanks to Michu, that Serbian man who came and helped Uganda to qualify. Then they went back in 2019. So from 2019, Uganda has not yet qualified, or had not qualified, because 2021 we did qualify, 2023 Uganda did qualify, and now 2025 is the year to watch. We are under a new coach after Uganda sacking the Serbian man Michu Asijovic. They brought in a new guy called Paul Put. By the way, when you look at the playing style of Uganda, when you look at the morale of the players, when you look at the morale of the supporters, then Uganda did another good thing to construct the stadium of Nambo National Stadium, which has really increased the numbers of supporters which are coming to support the game in Uganda. Man, it's going to be a tug of war. It's going to be another enjoyable thing. Now Uganda wins remaining with only 1 game, because they're having a header to play against Congo. That is on 19th. Uganda has already qualified, because Uganda, where it qualified, it came in this game yesterday, went and qualified, because South Sudan was playing in with Congo, and South Sudan beat Congo. Remember, Congo was at 4 points, and South Sudan was, I think, at 1 point. 1 or 0 point, but South Sudan came and beat Congo. If Congo had beat South Sudan, it means that Congo would have gone to 7 points, and then the final game between Uganda and Congo would be another lethal game. But this time round, the game between Congo and Uganda is just formality, because now Uganda is at 10 points. Then when you look at the country called South Africa, is also there topping or leading that group. So I think when you look at Group K, Uganda is in number 2 with 10 points. Then South Africa is having 11 points. And when you look at Congo is having 4 points. And then South Sudan is having 3 points. Now, the last game, South Sudan were playing South Africa just for formality, and then Uganda were playing Congo just for formality. But Uganda, they need really to come up and win the game of Congo, and then play South Africa to make a draw. Because if it comes that Uganda qualifies as number 2, there will be another problem, because remember, when you qualify in the first spot from your group, in most cases you play those underdogs teams or the second qualified teams. But when you are in number 2, it means that you meet guys like Morocco, guys like Egypt, guys like Senegal, which are not easy. But Uganda, question comes to the FA, that's the FUFA of Uganda, FUFA technical team, and then it comes to the technical team of Uganda Crane. After qualifying, what next? Is it that Uganda will again go and just play without perusing way through from the group stages? Because Ugandans are now tired of just celebrating after qualifying, but then the team does nothing. I think this time round, the support Ugandans have showed to the Uganda Crane, I think Uganda Crane, they have to go away and qualify, from the group stages. I don't know which team will Uganda be paired with in the group stages, but I think Uganda should qualify this time round, because Ugandans are now losing morale. They are having the morale, but if Uganda goes in the AFCON 2025, which will be in Morocco, and they fail to qualify from the group stages, at least they should qualify, and then they lose maybe on last 16 on quarterfinals. But let's wait and we see. All that we just handle it to the technical team, talk about our coach Paul Put, not forgetting the assistant coach Sam Sibwa, then plus other guys. By the way, God is having guys talk about Bob Spearuhanga in the heart of the midfield. I talk about the magician midfielder Alan Okero, my friend. That guy is terrible. I talk about the striker Dennis Omedi. Then I talk about that man called Mohamed Shaban. He had an injury. He didn't play well in this qualifying situation, but he's another guy you can talk about, because last time when he was in KCSA, he was the top scorer by then. Then he made his transfer to Libya. That's the team called ALLREADY now. He's another guy you have to look at. Then talk about guys like Kenneth Semakula. I think we shall put, or Uganda will put really a good performance when it comes to AFCON 2025 after qualifying in Group K. That is with 10 points now, just waiting to play on the 19th. I think they will play in Congo. It will be another tough game. Let's wait. But today, the account of qualifying continues, where we are having 2 games today in AFCON qualifier. Remember, today we have Ethiopia up against Tanzania. Then Guinea up against the DRC Congo. Ethiopia up against Tanzania will be the first game. Then Guinea up against the DRC Congo will be the second game. I think the DRC Congo will be just playing for formality, because they have already qualified in the 2025 AFCON. So they will be playing for formality when they play against Guinea. Then tomorrow, still the hassle continues for qualification, where we shall see Algeria playing Liberia, and then Togo will play Equatorial Guinea as AFCON is concerned. So those are some of the small things which I can put you, the viewer of Waiswa King Morgan page. Really, continue to subscribe. You go on that page, on that channel of YouTube called Waiswa King Morgan. Subscribe, call your friend, tell your friend, tell your sister to subscribe, because that's the only